Meanwhile, there are rising tensions in East Asia. As we've been reporting, Taiwan reporting the largest incursion to date by China into its airspace. They are flying Chinese aircraft in Taiwan airspace. 25 warplanes entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone Monday, just days after a warning from the United States. Joining me right now is Fox News senior strategic analyst, General Jack Keane. General, it's good to see you this morning on this very serious and really worrying story as we watch Taiwan and whether or not we are going to see a bigger incursion than these aircraft going in. And then I'll point out to this journal op-ed, this journal story this morning in the news section. China's message to America: we are an equal now. Your thoughts on what we're seeing out of China and whether or not we are going to see more in terms of Taiwan?
Well, yes, Maria, you're absolutely right. It's likely it's going to be more because that's been the pattern now for well over a year. 2020 was the largest incursions of Taiwan's airspace that's ever occurred. And we are now in 2021, obviously, and that is increasing over 2020. This is the largest amount of aircraft that have ever been flown in Taiwan's air defense space. 18 fighters, 4 bombers, a couple of anti-submarine aircraft, etc. So this is significant in the sense of President Xi clearly is sending a message. Now, who is this message being sent to? One, he knows for a fact that intimidating and coercing Taiwan will not force their capitulation to give up and join mainland China. He knows that President Xi won a re-election on the basis of not doing that. So he and all these incursions do is stiffen Taiwan's resolve. So what's this message really about? I think it's 2 things. One is to the Biden administration. I think they were quite pushed back by the Biden administration when they took a similar strong stand supporting Taiwan and also an anti-China stand that the Trump administration took. You saw that reflection in the verbiage that the Chinese ministers were using at the Alaska talks between the Chinese and the United States. The second message, I think, also is to the Chinese people, and that is, I think President Xi clearly wants to absorb Taiwan. I think he has it in his mind to eventually do it by force if necessary. And he's also conditioning his domestic audience that there's problems here. And he's raising their awareness of that in the event that their conflict does take place. But I don't believe this is imminent. And certainly not before the Chinese Olympics. But the likelihood is increasing, Maria.
All right, so you don't see it happening before the Chinese Olympics. It's a good point that you're making. Why would they want to do that in front of the world as the world apparently gets ready to go see the Olympics in Beijing? But here's what the Journal writes this morning. Mr. Yang, the foreign associate from Beijing, Xi Jinping's top foreign policy aide, delivered a 16-minute lecture about America's racial problems and democratic failings. The objective, say Chinese officials, was to make clear that Beijing sees itself as an equal of the United States. He also warned Washington against challenging China over a mission Beijing views as sacred: the eventual reunification of Taiwan. So clearly that came up in that meeting. But what I'm trying to understand is why the coronavirus did not come up in the Alaska meeting, General. I mean, this is a head scratcher. President Biden has been putting the coronavirus as its #1 priority. And yet we know Beijing and the CCP hid the virus, cornered the PPE in the world, allowed the coronavirus to escape its borders, no matter where it came from, allowed it to escape its borders and go all around the world and kill millions of people. I spoke with the former National Director of National Intelligence on Sunday Morning Futures. Here's what John Ratcliffe told me about that.
The big winner in the 2020 election was Joe Biden. It was also China. And the fact that Joe Biden is not or his diplomats are not addressing this issue directly with China, I think really reflects that everything that they've said about China, about being tough, is just that. It's rhetoric, and the policies are really an attempt now to whitewash over this issue because they don't want the political narrative of China being the bad guy. And let me be real clear about this, Maria. Regardless of the origins, whether it was naturally occurring or an accident lab, China lied to the world. Once they became aware of the transmissibility of this from human to human transmissibility, China misrepresented and lied. They suppressed scientists and doctors and journalists and World Health Organization officials because they didn't want to be blamed for this. And as a result, they are a direct and proximate cause of more than 500,000 Americans who died in the past year. And the American people deserve accountability and answers for that, and Joe Biden should be getting those.
General, we're not getting them, and all we see are more tests from Beijing. Look what happened to the Epoch Times in Hong Kong. 4 masked men walked into the Epoch Times wielding sledgehammers. A number of U.S. lawmakers now, including Congressman Devin Nunes, Rick Scott, condemning this attack on the Epoch Times' printing press in Hong Kong. This is the 5th time this site has been vandalized, comes less than 18 months after intruders set fire to the same facility. They keep, barging into the printing warehouse and smashing machinery, General.
Yeah, well, what's happening certainly in Hong Kong is President Xi has crushed their democracy. We've seen that happen as a result of the national security law that his People's Congress passed. But what's still there, and it's a good thing, is some vestiges of that democracy in the form of a free press. And the Epoch Times represents that. So what is the CCP doing? They've got their goons going out there and actually physically destroying the printing press. And they have done this, and they've vandalized it in the past. I mean, this is the reason why Jimmy Lai, who is a guest on your show repeatedly, multi-billionaire from Hong Kong, who has been a protester against the CCP crackdown that's taken place in Hong Kong, but he's in jail not because he was a protester. He's in jail because the Apple Daily, which he publishes, has been significantly critical of the Chinese Communist Party regime. So the vestiges, some vestiges of democracy are still there, and the Chinese Communist Party is physically crushing it as best as they can. And that's the reality of what we're facing with President Xi. I mean, he has uncovered who he really is.
Yeah, what I'm really interested in seeing is what our policy is going to be about all of this, General. We'll have to wait on the Biden administration. General, it's always a pleasure to get your take on all of this. Very important story. General Jack Keane, next time we've got to get into Iran as well. We'll see you soon, sir. We'll be right back.